the time with the Ahaspora, you have a few questions you want, should I say, deliberated upon? Because I can say that to each person, the answers may vary a bit because they are unique circumstances you find yourself in. So what I'm going to do will be to start by attempting those questions, and where you have peculiar ones, you could put them either in the chat box or you could actually ask them, and then we'll take it from there. So one of the first questions I think I got per the email is how to survive after college when you no longer have the stipend that you got from MasterCard Foundation, if I get it, when you were at Ashesi. I guess that would be a bit of a shocker when you wake up and realize that your bursary or your funding is no longer available to you. What I can say now then is, of course, the first question would be, are you working? Because if you're working, one of the things you may also find out is that the money that was given to you whilst you were on the MasterCard Foundation could very well have been way more than you are earning now that you are actually working. And so that also comes in because you have become somehow used to a certain lifestyle. And then now you are not earning what it is that you were making before on the MasterCard. And that can be a real blow to you. But what I can say is that one of the first things would be to then sit down and take stock of what actually constitutes your expenditure pattern. So that's one of the first things you need to look at. So another question would be, did you save any of it? Because that's also a problem. If you didn't save any of it and you are not working, I think, so let me ask, how many of you are currently working? You can show by hand so that at least I have a sense of how many of you are currently working. Okay. So if you are working, and so one of the easiest ways, therefore, if you are working, would be to try, okay, you're running your business, excellent. So what you need to then look at is the money. So the next question I would be asking you is, the money you are making now, is it more than what you were making as for stipend during your MasterCard days, or now it's less than that? You can put it in the chat box so I get a sense. Is it more or less? Okay, more. Okay. So then if it's more, then the main thing you need to really look at is, how do you tailor your life such that you can make money or you can save more out of what you currently have? Because that would be the building blocks for your capital to acquire other things that will come up as the journey goes on. Whether you want to acquire a house, you want to get yourself a car, all of those things will come more from whatever you are able to save as you move on. So now another thing you want to look at is that if you are currently not working, then I'll encourage you to at least maybe be more aggressive. And one of the easiest ways I've seen with getting jobs, even when you don't have one, maybe to look around and find a firm and offer yourselves for, should I call it, self-funded internship, meaning that to a large extent, you're not really expecting the firm to pay you for the internship, but if you, at least you're able to go in and come and acquire the experience. To do that clearly means that you would also have to look within your territory to be able to identify the right place such that you don't have to come up with a lot of fixed costs. Because if you don't pick it right, then of course you're going to be spending money trying to get experience, which will count for improving your employment prospects, but at the same time, you cannot afford. So in this case, when you're looking for the experience, you'd want to also do some kind of territory mapping to see which organizations operate within your territory. And that's another way to accumulate some experience in that. So surviving after college when you are no longer receiving the stipend, that's what you could do. One, like somebody said, you're either trying to set up your own business, which could actually emanate from some hobby that you already have, but which also is solving a problem, because that's actually where the possibility of money and your business will coincide. If you have a hobby that does not necessarily serve a need, it becomes a bit more difficult to launch it as a business that will go on for years to come. Then somebody asked, acquiring financial stability. And so when it comes to financial stability for me, I think comes more from knowing what you want or need to start with actually, and then planning towards it. That is actually what allows you to have some kind of stability. The reason it does that is because if you plan ahead, you are able to situate in your mind what you can and cannot afford. And so that turbulence that comes with, expenses coming your way for which you haven't really planned for is minimized. It doesn't mean it's taken away completely, but it is minimized. And another way to plan for financial stability is to actually have a goal in mind as to where you want to go and how you want to get there. Maybe one of the first areas you'd want to look at is, for example, having an emergency fund. An emergency fund will typically cover between 3 to 6 months of your typical monthly expenditure. So it means that to have financial stability and have peace of mind, it is important that now you need to first and foremost have some good records as to what your typical monthly bills are, and then know that you need to start saving to have stashed away somewhere in a relatively simple savings accounts, etc. Money that can cover between 3 to 6 months of your expenditure. That way, should anything really happen, you are assured of that stability, at least for the next 3 to 6 months, while you have the peace of mind to look for the necessary solution. So that's another way to achieve financial stability. Achieving financial stability also means that you would want to be spending within budgets. Now, a lot of us don't spend with budgets. We spend as the day goes. And so we are always, on a roller coaster. Today you're broke, tomorrow you're a bit more liquid, and it goes on and on. But a budget means that you actually direct the money as to where it goes instead of wondering where it actually went. And so that's one of the key things for attaining financial stability. So this stability here, you are working in advance and being more proactive in trying to shape the things that can affect you. So it means that you've got an emergency fund, you try to live by a budget. And in all of these, you should have a goal in mind. And so the question also is the goal that you're working with. So what you realize is that in trying to get financial stability, it also means that you're trying to minimize the erratic nature with doing your finances or expenses move. And like I said, that can only come when you have a plan as to where you'd want this funds to sort of take you. So that's for the financial stability bit. I think the other question that I picked from the email, managing the financial burden at home with a nuclear and extended family setting. Now, this can be a very delicate issue sometimes. But more importantly, one of the key things, at least I have come to learn more in terms of practice and also is the fact that you cannot carry more than you're truly able to carry. And so you need to start drawing lines. When you say the financial burden at home, do I take it that you're married, or it is the case of your parents and your siblings? If you could share some insights in the chat box, anybody ideas as to what the financial burden is at home, so that I'll be able to tailor the comments or the response accordingly. Any comments? So you can put in the chat box. Is it your own parents and your siblings, or in this case, you are married and then you're looking at your family in terms of your nuclear family with, let's say, spouse and children? Which one are we looking at?
Yeah, hello.
Okay, yes, please.
So this Mohammed Amin,
yes,
family. Yeah, so
okay.
When I see financial burden with regards to nuclear and extended family, for me, I am referring to a person like myself who is married with one child, and then your mother and your father, they are alive, and your grandfather and your grandmother, they are also alive. And then when you were growing up in your educational ladder, one way or the other, your aunties and your uncles have given you money to go to school, or they have bought you shoes or clothing. So all this extended family and even friends around your house, like your area, and they have all supported you to go to school. Now you have completed university and then you have gotten a job and you are working. And then all these people, either themselves or their children, they are also expecting you to come back to give to them once in a while. You are there and somebody just bumped into your house. Oh, I am facing this particular person thing. How can you help me? I expect you to help me with this and that. So this is what I define as, I see as like
The
managing
burden.
my burden. So this is
Okay.
me. I'm just defining like myself like this.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that insight, Ami. So what I can say to that is, in fact, this actually brings to bear the actual importance of having a clear budget on your expenditure. Now, what this means is that for you, I could say that I don't know how much you earn, but what you have to go back and do is to sit down and look at exactly how much are you earning. Because like I said, you cannot carry more than you can genuinely take with you. So if you are, for example, earning 5,000, you can only spend within 5,000. If you begin to spend outside of 5,000, you're only asking for financial stress, which will ultimately come back to bite you and make you the bad person in the long run. So these are some of the things you do. You should decide right from the word go. And then one of the things you would also have to learn along the way is that in some instances, you would have to say no. I think usually the challenge is that you feel guilty because you think that once somebody bought you a pair of shoes somewhere along the line, then you sort of owe them. Yes, it can be a bit of a burden, but you'd have to decipher and determine for yourself to what extent you'd want to place these categories of people. So you've got your both parents are alive. If I may ask, do you have siblings? And are they also working?
Yes, I have siblings who are not working.
They are working or they are not working?
They are not working.
Oh, okay, they are not working. Are they older than you or younger?
I am older than them.
Okay. All right. So, and are you the one responsible for their upkeep?
Not really, not really. But their children are actually with my mother, who I am also supposed to give money and pay their school fees while they are going to school. So ideally, yes, their burden are on me. Their children are with my mother.
Oh, okay. But they have children. They are not working, but they have children.
They have children. They are not. They are married. Like they are three. They are all married, and they have children who are with my mother. So, and I'm with my mother in the house.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. So that I understand how that creates a burden. Okay, so here, this one is going to be a bit more prescriptive, but you have to think about it and also situate it within the family dynamics. What will then happen in some cases will be that there must be some kind of discussion from a standpoint of mutually helping each other. Because you have one child, and how many children do you have to add on from these siblings whose children are staying with your mother?
There are four.
Four. So you have one child, but you are literally caring for 5 children.
Yes.
Okay, that I think that can be a real burden. And so at that point, you may have to decide on something that, okay, maybe I am going to support with school fees, but food, they must also work. If they actually can have 4 children, it is important that they find work to do. Because what I have seen, and this I can give you free advice, unless you're making that much and it's not a burden, which is fine then, but when it becomes too much of a burden, I have seen too many people develop sicknesses because of this financial stress, and they end up having poorer quality of life compared to those whose burdens they have carried. So you must draw the line and decide that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And you have to stick to it. You may not be the most popular sibling, but remember that in all of these, you have to try and live long also for your child. It's important. So what you then need to find out is, okay, can I support the school fees? Then I decide that it's the school fees I take, but the food bill, I will not. And then you agree with your mother If you have to support, and I agree, okay, my mother and my father, I can give you each this amount of money at the end of each month. And that is what I can genuinely afford. So here you would go through your financials, and then you would apportion appropriately, like government would do, earmark amount. So you know that, yes, every month I'm putting away 500 because at the end of 3 to 4 months, there's a bill of 2,000 cedis I need to pay for their school fees and everything that goes into school fees. So if the entire salary you're making is like 3,000 or 3,500, already 500 is gone every month. Then maybe you're looking at electricity, you're looking at water. By the time you finish all of those, the amount of money possibly left maybe could be 1,000 cedis or 1,200. And that is after you've even taken out the school fees and other things. If that includes also giving what your parents need to get from you, you must decide how much you give. You make it constant, but you give nothing more. Because the risk also is that whenever they come to you, may I ask, do you make it a point to, do you borrow from people to give to such bills?
Oh, no,
Okay.
I don't.
You don't. Okay. So I think you may be on the right track where decide in advance what you can genuinely give. Put pen to paper, and then you say, and then even in the process, try and save a bit for yourself because there could be a rainy day. So apportion, and then have a full family discussion if need be. Let them know that this is the burden. So trying as you are and trying to fix it, there is also a limit so that you do not compromise your health, because once your health is compromised and you cannot work, then it means even the little that you're bringing to support everybody becomes a challenge. And I would encourage that the siblings who are not working, are they able to work or they are not able to work, meaning that they are like physically challenged or something that stops them from working?
It's like, it's very difficult. They are not physically challenged. They are just, in fact, they are ladies and then they are married to other people. Actually, I got the opportunity to go to school. They haven't gotten the formal education. And then they were with my aunties and then they just came back. So they didn't get the formal education and they didn't get the opportunity to also learn these vocational skills. So in bringing up them, their main motive was to get men and married to, and that is all. So they haven't gotten the formal education to even work. And then they don't even have that skill, that vocational skill to work on it. And now they are all married. By the time I completed university, they have all gotten married.
Okay, so if they are married, how about so how about, so these are sisters of yours, how about their spouses?
Yes.
Are their spouses working?
I can't tell much about them. I can't tell much about their spouses, but then I can say they have given birth to so many children to the extent that like the one who is next to me have about 6. So only 2 are with my mother, and the other two are having about 5, and 1 are with my mother, making 4. So it means that there are more with them, and some are just with us.
Okay. So I think it's good with the background you've given. If it is possible to get them to get a trade, that will also be another way to empower them so that they can actually carry their own, responsibilities. Because one way or the other, you would have to find a way so that they can fish for themselves. Because if you don't do that in the long run, when you also have children, I'm sure you are not hoping to stop at 1. Assuming you continue and you go on to 4, and then there are 4 hanging in there, 8 children, even the quality of life you can give them will be in question. So that's one of the key things. So maybe you may want to seriously consider encouraging them and helping them to actually get a trade one way or the other that sits well with whatever talents they have. That way they'll do better. So that's what I can do. And as for your parents, well, there's blessing in giving your parents something. So every time and every now and then you give them, you put it on your radar and know that this is something you have to do constantly, and then you should determine how much it is. It should not always be random. Today they come, they need 100, you give. Tomorrow, 200. And then the next day it comes, another 100. It should be agreed. The same way that you have, let's say, your salary and it is fixed, and you are learning to work within it, it's important that you also determine how much you can genuinely give them. And they must also learn to live within that, because that's one of the key things that we'll have to deal with. There was another one who spoke about the issue of siblings. For siblings, I know that in some cases, you may end up being responsible for some. The principles are the same. What can you genuinely afford and what can you not afford to give them? Yes, a few siblings can be a bit more problematic, sometimes running bills here and there, but one of the key things that you need to keep in mind, even as you're seeking to manage this burden, is to ensure that they get educated and they get financially literate as they move along, because that also allows them to make the best use of whatever resources you make available to them. So that's for the sibling bits. Those who may not have other burdens in terms of, let me put it that way, in terms of, for example, taking care of other people's children, and it is your parents, the principles also hold. You have a sit down where they don't, I can speak for myself that I've had to engage even relatives, whatnot, and then get them to appreciate the need to be prudent in financial management, to take decisions that we can all be proud of. And so that in the long run, it doesn't become burdensome or too burdensome for the one who is trying to help, because sometimes some try to help, and then because they are trying to help, others decide that, sometimes I can go and sleep because whatever be the case, it will be provided for, which doesn't help everyone, because it is together that we are able to lighten the load for everyone. So even as you're helping, you try to make it a point of encouraging the others to also come along and lighten the burden so that you can all share that on the side. So that's for trying to manage the financial burden at home, whether with a nuclear family or within the extended family setting. And these are all important, of course, in our cultural context. You always don't leave them, but you must draw clear lines, because if you fail to draw the clear lines, it can actually overtake you, it can become too burdensome, and it can actually give you sicknesses that would not augur well for your good. Anyway, now, so personal financial management. So that's for on the personal level. After you've managed all the others, the question is, what do you do to yourself? And that is a very important thing. Now, on the personal financial management level, there are some clear things you need to, there are basic modalities you'd have to follow. One, what are your goals? Your goals are the things you'd want to achieve in the, the foreseeable future. Some may be right now through to, let's say, end of year 2. We may put that within the category of relatively short-term goals. So within the next, how many, 1 to 2 years, if you don't have an emergency fund, for example, that will be your goal. If you have a loan on your salary, for example, your goal may be to want to pay it off. If you don't have a car, maybe your goal is that within the next 1 to 2 years, you want to buy a car. Or you live with your parents, but you're planning that within the next 2 years, you would want to rent a place. Now, in all of these, you need to decide how much will it take. So for example, you would want to have an emergency fund. Like I mentioned earlier, the emergency fund is between 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenditure. So first and foremost, you need to have some kind of records as to what your typical monthly expenditure patterns are. So you have the amounts. Now you put it together and, for example, you end up spending like 3,000 cedis to live comfortably in a month, then it means that you're going to multiply this by around 6. It means that you need a savings facility of about 18,000. So you put that down. Then you think of it, okay, I want to buy a car. And of course, I'm looking at everything. And when you want to buy a car, it's important to also be, let's say, practical and realistic. If you're not making so much money and you think that you genuinely need a car, you may not need a car, but assuming you decide that you genuinely need a car, then one of the key things you need to start looking at is, okay, what kind of car am I going to get? So you see, while somebody can afford a Mercedes, you can only afford a Kia Picanto. You stay with it. So you put down, for example, a Kia Picanto will be around 50,000 minimum. Then you put down 50,000. Then you ask yourself, what other thing? Okay, I want to move into my own place and rent. So maybe I'm not yet going to build, but because building can be more long-term. I want to rent a place. How much is the rent advance that is required? Now you put all of these together and realize that maybe you need almost like 100,000. Now, having been able to identify what you want to do and how much it will cost to do what you want to do, then you come back to come and do some kind of situational analysis. The situation analysis currently means, okay, what is my current situation? And is it that it is able to support the goals that I have? And that means you come back and you begin to map your whole net worth and your operation, as we'll call it, I'll call it your operational profitability. So you see, as you're a working person, you're more like a business yourself. So take all your income and take all your expenses. Are you living within your means? And if that is the case, how much is left after all your expenses? Does it mean that you actually have surplus over expenditure? If you do, the next question is it enough to help you attain the goals? Because here you need to save, let's say, 100,000. If you need to have 100,000, give and take a bit of what? For example, no interest, or at this point we have very low interest. So what it means is that if you take, for example, the 100,000, and then you know that you want to do 2 years. 2 years roughly is 24 months. So we take 100,000 and then we divide by 24 months. What it means is that you need approximately 4,166 in terms of savings for the next 24 months for you to even make the raw amount. Remember that by the time you're done, the car price, for example, could have gone up. So let's say that interest from this time when you start saving, your 4,166 could be helping you out. And then if you look at it, I ask yourself, are you in a position to afford to put aside 4,166 every single month? If that is the case, hallelujah. But if that is not the case, then this is where you go back again and you take your surgical knife. You go back to your expenses and then you begin to trim. What are some of the things that I spend on that I could do better on? Maybe for some of us unconsciously, we are doing Friday night jamboree. Every Friday night, we do like some, 200 Ghana. It's not that much, but 200 Ghana by 4 times in a week, that's 800. Oh, you have the habit of drinking a bottle of malt every time you eat. You know, when you have that chilled bottle of malt after eating, it does wonders for your soul. And then the malt bottle is selling for around 6 Ghana cedis. And so by the time you're doing 30 days minimum, that's like what, 180. By the time you do 365, because you're doing it every day, so you don't realize, but 6 cedis times 365, and that's 2,190, and that's just a bottle of malt. And then you have this habit of, once in a while, let's do this. So you go back and then you now take a critical look at all the things you have been spending on. Which ones are essential and which ones are not? Some of us, we buy credit on the go. Immediately we run out, we buy. We run out, we buy. If we were to take stock of how much credits we were actually buying, we could actually be building a lot, but we don't know. So you go back and take the surgical blade. In my house, for example, when we decided that it was time to build, one of the first things that disappeared in our home was a DSTV subscription. We decided that we shall do Ghana TV for the meantime. Because at that point, we were paying, I think it's pegged more to cities, but at that time, it was almost equivalent of $100. So you can imagine if it was still $100, in terms of today, that would be like what, 1,200 plus for the DSTV. Yet, you are out of the house most of the time. So whilst it feels good to be a DSTV owner, economically, it doesn't even do much for you. And so those are some of the things. You look at it and then you're in the habit of always, every bag you see, you buy some. Every shoe you see, you buy some. Every shirt you see, you need to have a whole plan. And then you see with this one, what it also does for you, if you're able to put down all your spendings for the period, what you would also notice sometimes is that they are what we call benchmarks. So for example, when it comes to food, are you spending within your salary, for example? You should not be spending maybe more than 20-25% of your entire salary on food, and then another 20-25 maximum on what? Your rent and all that pertains. So your food, shelter, clothing should try and stay within maybe a maximum of 40 or so %. Then, of course, you have to start looking at school fees for children, if any, and other bills. Now, all things being equal, you should be able to be saving between 15 to 20% of your salary. Now, if that 15 to 20% of your salary does not come back to this issue of it doesn't come back to this issue of 4,166, for example, then you have the other option then would be, is that the possibility of creating a side revenue stream that you can use? Because that's what also is possible. So you may want to look at it from that angle. Now, when you do this issue of evaluating your personal finances, it forces you to weigh the options of, one, these goals that I have, therefore, are they realistic or unrealistic? Because if you're looking at the fact that by achieving these goals of, let's say, I need an emergency fund, we've completed the amount, I want to buy a car, I want to move into a place that I'm renting myself, and everything comes down to what, 100,000, and I want to do that within the next 2 years, then clearly, all I would need the 4166. I look at it and it turns out that I can only do 3,000. 3,000 then would mean that I may be forced to revise the duration of my goal. So it means that if I have to raise 100,000, and here we are assuming that inflation doesn't get in, or at least we can save the money and get some little interest, and you're going to be doing only 3,000, for example, it means that you need about 33 months, which then means that you need almost 3 years to be able to achieve this goal. And so that then puts you in perspective. So here you see, you know what you're working at and how to go about it. Another thing then will be, look at your financial worth. What do you own and what do you owe? And that one is a critical thing that must be done all the time. Because in doing that, you're able to tell whether as a person or as an entity, you are creating value as opposed to be destroying value. Sometimes we have a lot of things, but they are more of liabilities than they are in terms of assets. We think we own a lot of things, but they really don't bring us any value. And so those are some of the things you'd want to look at. Now, once you have been able to do all of these, it means that you get a sense of whether or not your goals can be achieved or not, or in some case you revise them. So if you're hoping to move out in the next 2 years, maybe you move that to 3 years, but the first one, you take the first baby steps and work towards your emergency fund, for example. And that one is crucial. So that would be the first one. So 18,000, for example, you decide that, okay, assuming I want to spend just the next 1 year doing my emergency fund of 18,000, then you ask yourself, if I have 12 months and I want to raise the 18,000 within the first 12 months, then it means I'm going to need about 1,500. And this, of course, compared to the 4,006, where 160 is way more achievable. So every month, rain or shine, you decide that you need to put away this 1,500. And in 12 months, you would have done your emergency fund, and then you find a stable financial institution, and then you save it there. Remember that you're not going to really get very high interest rate, but you just need some place you could go to as and when you're hot, and then you always refill it. So that's it. It's an emergency fund. When you have to tap into it, after tapping into it, you make sure you restore it to the needed state so that when you need it once again, it is available for you to take. So that becomes the first baby step. Working, for example, and then telling yourself, the only thing I'm going to work out for the next 1 year is to build my emergency savings facility. And then that is that. That's what will preoccupy you. When you are able to achieve that, then you go to the next one. Okay, what is my next goal? If you have a loan, for example, you say, I want to pay it off, or it is a car you actually want to get. Now you work towards the car. Oh, okay, the car will cost me, or you decide that, okay, in sequence, you think it might make more sense to rent a place before getting a car, or reverse. It's all about what the dynamics are for you. But bear in mind that every decision you make must add value to you. It does not make sense to take a decision that ends up stressing you financially. It is not worth the supposed excitement. So whenever you have to take a decision as to what is important and what is crucial, for example, and of course, to also determine what you should be spending your money on so that you can make savings. There's a model I like you to keep in mind. I like to call it MUSCAL, or in this case, so MUSCAL here stands for an acronym derived using the first letters of phrases that deal with determining what is a need, and for example, what is a want. So MUS here is MU, meaning that is a must-have. So then the MUS, because MUS, there's a should, so there's an S, should have. Then because there's a cow, the cow is CO, and that is could have. And then the last one for the cow, W, is would like to have. Now, a must-have, therefore, is more of an essential. You need it to survive. So there are some basic things: food, shelter, clothing. You need those to survive. But let me add something. Even as you need those ones to survive, within the category of that particular need as well, sometimes wants get in the way. Oh, so yes, you need food, but nobody says that your food must be eaten constantly at a 5-star hotel, or it must look like food prepared from a 5-star hotel. That will come at a cost. So once you have the must-have, it is important to determine what goes into your must-have. Then, of course, we have the issue of the should-have. Should-haves are elements that work to enhance your life, but will not necessarily affect you or kill you if you didn't have that. So yes, having a smartphone is great, but not having a smartphone will not necessarily kill you. But not eating will kill you. Now, looking at these things, so those are the two things. So whenever you have to buy something, you have to put something as an expense. The first question you need to ask yourself, is it a necessity? Is it a need versus a want? Sometimes we spend more on our wants than we actually spend on our needs. So when the needs finally arrive and we have to pay for them, we find that we are actually wanting. So that's another way to go about looking at these issues. So with the must-have and the should-haves, these typically fall in the category of what needs. Now, let's go into the category of what wants, and that be, oh, could have, I could have it. I could have it because, well, if I don't have it, nothing will really happen. But if I do have it, it will just be fun, and would like to have is even lower on the chain because it's more of just an add-on. Now, like I said earlier, even though the must-haves and the should-haves are typically things that enhance our lives, and also for the must-haves literally are requirements, within the category of things that are must-haves like food, shelter, clothing, you must be careful not to make wants become needs. So yes, having food is essential, like I said, but nobody said anything about having the most expensive meal on the block. Having a place to sleep is essential, but nobody says you have to go rent a place at the most expensive neighborhood so that everybody will know that you have arrived. Now, let me give you an example of how that could actually work against you if you quickly or you move too quickly into a neighborhood that is above your pay grade or your spending pattern. So I'll give you an example of, let's say, two people who have been employed. Now, let's say they're all being paid 5,000 cedis every month. And then one decides to live in a very plush neighborhood. So immediately 1,500 of their salary goes to pay rent. So they are left with what? 3,500. Now, strictly speaking, 1,500 to pay their rent, they have literally hit the threshold, because this rent here for no more than 20% is supposed to also be inclusive of your furnishings and everything and maintaining that place so that you can lay your head. So clearly, at 20% of 5,000, it means we should not typically be exceeding, let's say, 1,000 cedis plus. So whilst you are spending 1,500 renting a place, your colleague decides that they would rent in a less plush neighborhood, and maybe they pay 700 cedis for almost the same facility, except that one is in, let's say, the East Legons and the Trasacos of Accra, whilst the second person paying 700 is living at, let's say, Medina New Road. Not so, but then the good thing is that for a place like Medina New Road, where this person is, the second person is living, they have access to what? Public transport, which is going to usually be missing in the very plush neighborhoods, meaning that you need to either buy a car or constantly deploy the taxis or the Ubers. Now, immediately that starts, it means that a significant portion of your money is either going to service a car loan that you would have taken, or will be paying Uber drivers as and when you move. And so whilst you may end up spending, let's say, another 1,000, 1,500 on transport only to get to work, your friend or your colleague could be spending 500 to be coming to work, same place. So here, this person is paying 700, for example, for rent, and then 500 for using public transport. You, on the other hand, you have 1,500 for your rent, and maybe another 1,000 or 1,500 for your transportation. Now that immediately moves you, the high class person, sort of, into spending about 3,000 cedis almost of your money just so you can sleep and drive or get a car to work. You're only left with 2,000. And then now comes other bills. You're eating. Meanwhile, this other person who rented in the not so plush neighborhood is paying 800 or 700 for rent, and then is paying another 500 for what? Transportation. That brings them to 1,200 in total. So they have about 3,800 saved. Assuming all of you spend the same amount of money on food, that means that assuming you even spend another 1,500 on food for the entire month, this person being left with what? 3,800, takes 1,500 for food and is left with approximately what? 2,000 what? 300. And then you, on the other hand, you spent 3,000 already on rent and transport. If you spend the same 1,500 on food, you are left with 500 cedis. This person has 2,300. Now, assuming you were all saving, in 1 year, you would have had 6,000. Your other person who was saving 2,300 every single month because they were living on the more modest side would have saved 27,600. Now, if for nothing at all, the principle of interest kicks in here. If all of you are earning 20% on your money, you who has earned or who has been able to save only 6,000 will earn 1,200 on your money, whereas this person who saved 27,000 would have saved 5,520, almost equivalent to the amount of money you save. So you will close the year with like 7,200, and then this person will be having like 32,000. So in 1 year, this person can actually go buy a plot of land. The next year, most likely East Legon demand is high, so rent goes up. But assuming even rent doesn't go up, and this attitude or this whole scenario runs for 5 years. In 5 years, the person who is living in the affordable neighborhood may have bought a plot of land, put up a building, finished everything, and even managed to buy a car. You, on the other hand, would have utilized your car, run out, not have enough savings after 5 years, because if you're doing no more than 7,200 in a year, so 7,200 in a year, given the salary like that, in 5 years, 36,000. Meanwhile, this is something close to what the other person was making in a year plus interest based on the decisions they took. So these are the ways that you can manage your finances. You should have a whole layout. Where do you want to go and how do you want to go about it? And it's usually very easy to start slow and then build the momentum. So young, fresh, starting life, there's always a temptation to want to live in a neighborhood sometimes with a house number and a street address. But that could very well be the reason you end up crippling yourself. So you need to balance that out. Now, once you're able to make your savings, of course, you need to start looking at investments. Currently, yes, our financial markets are in turmoil, but they will soon pick up. And so sometimes one of the key things I've told people now is that, yes, because the market will ultimately pick up, even if you're younger, all the better. You put in the money because a lot of facilities are selling for lower than their proper prices. And so you can buy the facility, hold, because God willing, you have years ahead of you. And then they will soon reflect their proper market prices, and you can then either sell them off. So sometimes, depending on what is going on, you can still decide that, okay, there are some investments, financial investments you can get into. Or if you have the time and means to, this will also be an opportunity for you to grow a business. So in investment here, you could choose to do financial investments, or you could do more real investment where you go into the production yourself, and then you can turn your money around and let it grow for you. So those are some of the key things. Now, when you want to invest on the personal side, you should always be on the lookout for funny investment schemes. Any investment scheme that offers a high rate of return, run. The reason being that all things being equal, higher rates of return come with very high risk, sometimes so well camouflaged that you do not see. And in recent times, a lot of the things that keep on coming around have to do with these multi-level marketing and Ponzi schemes where they try to get you, oh, if you bring 10 people, then those 10 people will bring another 10 people. And then the truth also literally is that they are literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. So when the returns look too good, usually it is actually too good to be true. And so you need to step away from those. So any investment where you cannot explain the money-making venture, somebody will say to your grandmother in simple English terms, then it means that is no investment. Please walk away. So those are some of the tips I can give you as regards personal financial management, and that would help you. Now, making the most out of productive hours. Now that has to do more with a bit of time management. Usually, I think we all fall into the trap of we wake up in the morning and we go with the flow. But like it is said, failing to plan means planning to fail. And sometimes that is how we, okay, I see a question here. Yes, hello.
Okay. Prophet, it's me. I was alerting people to put their questions in their chat section.
Okay.
So
all right.
Thanks.
Sure. So, one of the key things I have learned, which I'm still learning, so it's not like we have all aced it, is the fact that you need to put down the things that you'll be doing, let's say, for the following day. And so you put them down, then you spend the nights before, going through and prioritizing them and apportioning time for completion. Because if you do not apportion time, the risk is that you would always end up, how do I call it, finishing the day. And if you have to take stock of what you actually did for the day, you realize that you didn't achieve anything. So you put that down, prioritize them, see what is crucial that must be delivered on that particular day, apportion time for the completion so that you can actually measure your progress, and then you take it from there. Now, once you are able to put down these things and then slowly you take them off, it even gives you a certain sense of what accomplishment, which makes you go on to even achieve further stuff. One of the key things, at least I know sometimes, is that you are working and then your phone beeps. Then you go to check what the beeping is. And before you know, you have actually spent 2 or 3 hours toying with your phone. So the phones can also be a real distraction and actually a bane on productivity. So what you can do for yourself would, every time your phone beeps and you end up taking it, you may want to ask yourself, how is this use contributing to my ultimate goal for the day? If what you're using the phone for currently is not contributing in any meaningful way to what you're supposed to achieve for the day, then I think it's important that you put down the phone and then you go back. So it's something you have to convince yourself to be doing consistently until it becomes a habit. So that's for making the most of your productive hours. Have a plan, map it out, put timelines on it so that you're actually testing yourself as to how to go about it, and then you take it from there. Oh, okay. So somebody is asking the black tax. If you could elaborate a bit more on that, I'll be grateful. So Aisha, if you could elaborate a little bit more on that, I'll be grateful.
Aisha, you can unmute yourself and tell us what the black tax is.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon. Okay, yeah, so it's I think it's got to do with people handling like family expectations. Because sometimes maybe your family has taken care of you through school, and let's say that you are the first born child, maybe you have like younger siblings, who may be, maybe your parents are now old, they can't, or they are not working. So it's like there is this responsibility that people have, like a lot of young Black people have, because of our economic dynamics. You may have to take care of some family members. And how do you handle that and save money as a young person?
Okay. All right. So I think it's similar to the issue raised earlier. Yes, that for our part of the world, yeah, that is. So I mentioned that it is important to have a full discussion family-wise, because remember that despite everything, unless your family hates you, they wouldn't want you to die off. But sometimes too, I think we carry too much than we should, genuinely, because you feel that it is an expectation, so you must meet it. But if you are not cut out for it, the pressure starts when, or the stress starts when the expectations or the requirements that you're supposed to do exceed the resources that you have. At that point, you're going to be stressed. You're going to have anxiety. You're going to be depressed in the long run. So whilst, yes, there is that expectation sometimes to help, it is important to draw the line as to how this help can take place. If I remember correctly, some years ago, this young lady who won the, I think, American Idol, and then suddenly all family shows up. Those who may have even just said hello to you think that you owe them a living. You need to trim them down. And finally, she was forced to trim them down when the millions she had won, plus other things, suddenly disappeared because everybody had a need. And sometimes they come up with a lot of harebrained business ideas. So you need to draw the line. And like I said, if you need to save, for example, 10% of your money needs to go into savings, take it out first. That's another tip that you should take. take out your savings first and then apportion what is left. More often than not, we do the reverse. We want to spend, and if any is left, we save. No, that never works because man is insatiable. We always have something that wants to be bought, something that needs to be changed for as long as the money is sitting there. So one of the ways you could save yourself that is to ensure that, for example, you have a standing order sitting on your account. Immediately the salary hits, that standing order also takes, and then you manage what you are left with. That way, once the money, the full amount of money is not in your bank for you to see it, chances are high that you will not be spending everything. And that also brings us to the principle of financial discipline. Sometimes we are not able to discipline ourselves financially. So even though the money is being saved and is going to a separate account, once in a while, then you just go and do some, very wild shopping, and then you tell yourself, oh, a man can only live once, so you must happy yourself. Nobody's stopping you, but make sure that in happying yourself, you also do not compromise on your long-term happiness. You may be happy today, but you have compromised yourself all the way to your pension years. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind. Yes. So happy yourself, it's important. Aisha, I see you laughing because I think sometimes we all get into the how do I call it, the whole where sometimes after saving for a while, they just, oh, let me just spend a little. And before you know it, you're actually blowing a significant hole in that savings portfolio. So it's important. Let the savings go first. So you receive 5,000 cedis, 2,000 cedis. If you're saving 10%, let the 200 move first. Then let's start talking. And so now, another way, at least I have learned, which also helps, is the fact that if this is what I am left with, then even my food, I apportion and say, okay, I cannot spend more than 20% of my money on food and other basic groceries. So quickly do I apportion and say that, okay, assuming I am getting 5,000, 20% is what, 1,000. It means I cannot spend more than 250 cedis on what? Food and other groceries. So quickly, I draw the line. It means that in a whole week, I should not spend more than 200 cedis. That immediately begins to change the kind of food I will cook, because then my food will move more from a lot of the stews and the meaty ones into more of the soups, and where I want to have proteins for my gravy, for example, then I end up mostly doing eggs as opposed to wanting to do the sausages and the chiffon and the bacon and the whatnot. Yes, you can have so many things, but once you put yourself in that and say that this is how I am going to do it, you find the money to go around. It's not that easy all the time, but it also takes, and with that kind of attitude then also means that when the money is genuinely not enough, you will know. And so then the next question is there any way to maybe earn extra income? Are there other side jobs you can keep to earn extra income? But in doing all of these, remember to take care of yourself so that you do not compromise your health, even as you're trying to live up to those expectations from what family members. So that's what I can say. Yeah, thank you, Aisha. Okay. Developing a savings culture. I think this one I've literally spoken about that. So save before you spend. Don't spend and save what is left over. That one is as good as it will not happen. So always make sure you do the saving so the money moves, then whatever is left. And that slowly with time, you would adjust to the pattern and it becomes a part of you. So that's it. Now, what kind of skills can you capitalize on to maximize income? It varies. Some people know how to write. You can decide to start writing. Maybe you can even write a book. Some people know how to cook. If you find some very busy women in your neighborhood who can't seem to spare time to cook, how about you cook for them for a fee? Some people, maybe you live in a neighborhood, they have children, and their children may need extra tuition. How about you capitalize on that and provide extra tuition? Maybe you have a hand on baking. How about trying your hand on baking and finding out what people would like, and then you can bake and provide for them. So there are a number of ways. So you could look around your neighborhood, look at the people you are daily coming into contact with from church to wherever, and find out the kind of things they have need for. And then you begin to provide those kinds of services. And before long, for some people, it actually turns out to be a full-blown business, and they may be forced to even leave their normal salary-paying jobs so they could devote more time to these. So when you want to capitalize on the skills, you could start by looking inside first. What can you do and do so well? Is this something you can use to generate income? If so, you may want to take it up. So that's another way to go about it. And so that's what I have to say for now. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, and then we'll take it from there.
Hello. Hi. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
So my question is that, my question will be, so I was supposed to, all these things you are talking about are like amazing. And I'd like to say, why would someone, how would I put it, save themselves from like being in a financial debt? So for instance, after school, I didn't do all the things you are teaching us right now. I find myself in a tight corner, struggling with my finances. How do I salvage myself?
Okay. So one of the first things would be to take stock of where you currently are. So it's like I said, you could look at yourself like you're a business. Even when businesses are trying to go into the future to achieve their vision, one of the first things you have to do is, where are you currently? Because it is after only knowing where you are currently that you can then tell how many steps it will take to get you to where you want to be. So first and foremost, we'll have to do an assessment of your current state of affairs. Do you have a lot of debt? How much? And then slowly we can come up with a plan as to how to work out and repay. If you cannot change your income level, then what we have to do is to be firm and try to find ways of reducing your expenses. It means you'd have to do away with certain things. In some cases, it means that even the phone you own, you have to give it up and go for something simpler. Maybe where you like to do your hair, you may want to change it. Even where the kind of maybe makeup kits you buy, you may want to take a second look at that. The kind of shoes you like, maybe every month, Charlie, you must gift yourself a shoe, pamper yourself small. It may be that now we're going to be doing that shoe every quarter. So it means that you save 2 months of shoe spending before you move on and buy another. So those are small things we can do. And slowly, they say, how do you eat an elephant? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. So we're going to put up and take stock of the elephants that we have. And then slowly, we are going to start, scraping off. Before you know, you've actually finished the scrape. So one of the first things we may want to do is take stock. What is the current situation? What do we need to get to our final destination of financial freedom and financial peace? Then we map out strategies. So you literally be applying the principles of strategic management to your life in terms of knowing where you are, knowing where you want to go to, what are your strategic priorities, and then what are the action plans that you would want to execute to get there. And usually it comes down to either managing your expenses in a proper fashion, or if you really have come to the very end of your expenses, sometimes it actually means changing your job, because that's the only way to be able to even get a better salary. Or in this case, do you want to then add a side business? If you can do that, yes, that's how you do that and make more income to fix the issues. I hope I helped.
Thank you. That was helpful. But I think I'll add one last umbrella to my question. When there's a spouse or there's family involved, how do you engage conversations to get them aligned with your new goals?
It's something that will be collaborative. So you need to be firm. So I can speak from experiences where I've had relatives. Oh, today they come, hey, in my car, and the fuel is just finishing. And the fuel is just finishing. So, and every now and then, They come in and maybe they want some money to top up fuel. And this is somebody who's, let's say, on pension. So top up fuel. Oh, today they come. Oh, can I get 100 or 200 to go back? And then you realize that before the month has ended, aside from maybe this person, you may have given some 500 bulk money, they would have come collecting over 1,000 or so plus from you. And then you ask yourself, why? So then you have a candid sit down. And then the issue is that, oh, you know, I would love to help you occasionally here and now. But then every time this expenditure, it does not allow you to plan. So for example, you also help them to take stock. So this person I help, I said, okay, every now and then you travel to this place to go and visit this person, say hello. And whenever anybody needs an errand to be run, they just call you, oh, can you drop this thing? Oh, can you take us here? And then you move your car. But whenever you do move your car, make the habit of taking receipts whenever you buy fuel. And at the end of the month, let us collate the receipts. And this person realized that almost 1/3 to 2/3 of their money went into just the fuel. We haven't talked about maintaining the car itself. We haven't talked about food. We haven't talked about anything else. And so suddenly this person decided that, you know something, instead of going out every single day and becoming the one to run most of the errands, what they ended up really doing was to say that I may go out just once a week. So it's on Wednesdays I go out. And when I go out, these are the places I'm going to go to. And suddenly they saw a drop. So you must have a candid chat, because if you also are trying and the rest are not helping, implementation is going to be difficult, because you need to have consensus building. Yes, it's your money, so you can be firm, but in order to make it more of something collaborative without generating enmity, there's a need to have a full discussion on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Aisha here again.
Yes, Aisha.
So my question is on loans, right? So generally, okay, so for, let's say for me, I see, I mean, someone told me that as a young person, loan shouldn't be you shouldn't be resorting to loan every now and then. But then, I mean, is there a good case for loan for young people? That's what I want to know, like.
All right, so let me put it in perspective for you. For example, whenever you take a loan, there's an interest on the loan, right? So the interest of that loan is like the costs of the loan. Now, every decision you make in life has financial implications, just as a lot of us don't appreciate it. But as a person, you are literally a profit and loss account with every decision you make, because every decision you make will have costs and will have benefits. When the benefits exceed the costs, you are better for it. When the costs of the decision, both implicit and explicit, exceed the benefits, you are worse off for it. So now let's come back to the loan issue. When you take a loan, it has a loan charge, 20%, for example, meaning that every year you are paying 20% on the loan balance. Then somebody will ask, is that good or bad? And the answer is, it depends. If you have borrowed at 20%, it means that the charge or the cost of getting access to that money is 20%. Now, if you can put that money to use such that it will return or yield or benefit you more than 20%, hallelujah, proceed. Nobody's going to stop you. Because what it means is that when you take the benefits of the loan, which can exceed 20% of the value of the loan, and then you subtract the cost of the loan, which is 20%, your net position is a profitable position. By all means, proceed. The problem begins to arise when you are taking a loan that is asking you for like 20 or 25%, but you're going to put it in a venture that is going to yield 15%. Automatically, that's suicidal. And most of the time we end up with such things because we never bother to do any serious analytics before we jump in. Oh, I hear that selling bread is good. but you haven't done any market research. You haven't checked to realize that almost all the people in your area like Reggie Ben's bread. So they already do Reggie Ben's bread. So unless you've done some serious market research, where you may have done your first simple bread and tested it with the market, and you are sure that they said they will stop buying all other bread and buy yours, it will be suicidal to just go take a loan and say that, oh, everybody eats bread at breakfast, and so I'm going to do a bread or a bakery. You might find yourself being the only one to buy your bread. So debt is not bad, neither is it a savior. It depends on the situation. So here, when you have a relatively good framework, debt only serves to magnify it. So debt actually magnifies what is in existence. If already your financial life is a mess, debt will make it even much more messier than it is. If your financial life is in, the right place and you're making all the right decisions, debt allows you more money to expand on the benefits that you were already enjoying. So the question before you go into debt is, what is my current situation? Do I want to expand whatever situation it is I currently have? So if I'm very efficient, then why not? I want to make that efficiency even more pronounced and get the gains out of it. But if after taking stock, and so that's the question, are you taking stock? Are you looking at your financial situation in totality? Even if it's a business you want to get into, have you looked at the viability of the business? Have you forced yourself to understand the numbers behind? Or you have just assumed that, oh, at the end of the business year, I'll make like 20,000 or 25,000. So, oh, okay, it's good. And then you jump in head first. You're going to break a neck. So that's one thing. Debt is neither good nor bad. It depends on the situation in which you are, and it can turn out to be monstrous, or it can turn out to be a good deal. And so that's for the advice.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments, questions? Okay. I think at this point we can begin to wrap up. And so by way of what I do, full-time, I'm an associate professor of finance at Legon. And then on the side, when I'm busy, like, of course, so like I told you, when you realize that you've got more bills than your teacher's salary can sustain, you utilize your skills, which I've got in terms of finance, business management. I utilize that and run a consulting service. So we actually offer corporate training. So corporate training in areas, business management, finance for non-finance managers. We arrange for customer service training. So any training that actually allows a firm to improve upon themselves and become more profitable, business improvement consulting, that's what we also do. So then there are times you need to have a strategic plan. So we actually help people to write strategic plans for entities. And then sometimes you want to find out how well is your firm doing health-wise. Yes, we're able to do financial diagnostics. And then we also provide research consultancy, market research. You want to gain customer insights, etc. Those are the things I also do on the side, that I leverage my skills and get some value out of that to increase, maximize my income earning potential. So that's so if you have anything that you come across and you think it might be useful, you could always reach out and we'll be grateful.
Thank you so much, Professor Vera, for spending quality time with us. I learned a lot from today's session, and I'm sure everyone who joined learned a lot too. We really, really appreciate your time. Please, could you share your LinkedIn account in the chat session so that those of us who want to follow you on LinkedIn can do so? Okay, please, when Professor Vera is done, I would ask for us to stay on a bit just to catch up on life. We have about 30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes. About 27 minutes. We won't spend all the 27 minutes, but just to catch up. I'm sure there's someone here you've not seen in a while or spoken to in a while. So we could just catch up and say hello to each other before we go. So yeah, Prof will put her, okay, she's not put it there yet. Prof will put her LinkedIn account on the chat session so that you can follow her, you can connect with her. And our last session, we learned to utilize LinkedIn and to use that to build network, because your network is your net wealth. So that is also important, and that is also part of resource management. Your network is part of your resource, so you need to manage your resource so that you can make the most of it. Yes, Prof has put her LinkedIn account on in the chat session, so please follow Prof, send her a message, connect with her. She's told us about the services she renders outside of work, being a tutor. You can connect with her. Those of you looking for mentor too, this I'll put Prof on the on the spot. If you are looking for mentor and you like Prof, you can be nice. You can message her and be nice to her. She might accept you as an mentee and mentor, especially those who want to go into education, go into research. I'm sure Prof will be a good asset for you. So Prof, thank you so much. You can leave us when you are ready, whilst we try to connect with each other for a while. So guys, can we see your faces, please? I miss you guys. Let's see your faces. Let's connect. Let's talk a bit before you go. Aisha, it's been a while.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm currently at the salon.
I love your hair.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm at the salon, and I think I have other people in my background. So
okay. All right. Thank you for joining. Grace, how are you? It's your first time. How was your experience?
Hi.
Hello, Grace.
It was good.
It was good. Good to hear. Good to hear. I hope you join our other session. Benjamin.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it was a great section. I like it a lot. I think a lot of things has been. I think more light had been shed on things regarding finance management. I think it has been helpful. Right. It has been. So thank you so much for coordinating this meeting. Yeah. So it's a helpful one. And this is Benjamin. Yeah, this is my face.
Hi, Benjamin. Nice meeting. Please don't hide. Stay in touch with us. There's a lot for us to share. We are thinking about, my colleague Patrick is here with us. Mr. Moore, hello. So I think our next session will be about graduate school application. Ahaspora has connections with a few HBCU universities. We've spoken to some of their professors and they've agreed to hold an info session with us. A lot of you have expressed interest in exploring graduate school opportunities. So we'll bring a few resource people on board to tell us about the opportunities out there. I keep sharing resources from Dr. Banda. Dr. Banda was a speaker on, I think, one of our sessions last year. He shares a lot of information on his LinkedIn about graduate school applications. So those interested in going to the graduate school, just DM me. I'll share his LinkedIn account with you. Connect with him and ask him all your questions, and I'm sure he'll be glad to help. Well, if you don't have anything to say, it seems like I'm the only one talking here. Oh, Benjamin, I see your hand up.
Yeah, please, what's your name on the page?
My name is Felicia. Let me say hello here. Let me say hello.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll say hello so you can save my number.
Hello, Ami.
Hello.
I mean, I haven't heard from you in a very long time.
Yeah, Asha.
I mean, yeah,
it was nice. Actually, in as much as this session was nice, it was actually nice to also see some names that I haven't heard from, and especially you also commenting on some parts, and then I can feel like we have shared, we have a common trace that
Yeah.
we shared, especially when you talk about the black tax, which I know is something that most of us do. You
I
know,
think those
actually,
foundation scholars can probably relate to that
yeah,
because of our background.
yeah, yeah. And this presentation actually, it was very interesting. I've learned a lot, especially when she actually allows people to share their things and then she can now pick it up from there to now explain this. And I actually enjoyed it. It was nice. It was nice section. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Grace. It was a pleasure having you. And I mean, thanks for the feedback. It's good. I like that. I like your inputs. I like how she
Yeah.
tackled the problems based on individual needs. So it wasn't just talking on a general basis, but also targeting some specific concerns, which was very useful. All right. I guess it's a Sunday
And
afternoon.
then I actually also like the fact that this particular presentation is being recorded. I don't know whether the previous ones have been recorded, and if this one has been recorded, it can share it into the group